So we got a little update in the CBA negotiations, dog. Now we're about 2 days away from the 9th. Now the 9th is when the current deadline is set to expire at midnight that day. Now with that being said, there's been many reports coming out that certain players are still frustrated with the owners. Well, I'm here to tell you, we got updates on the matter. Now, word on the street is that Adam Silver is growing frustrated with this whole day.
That frustration you just heard, that's not coming from the players. That's coming from Adam Silver himself. And when the NBA commissioner is publicly expressing frustration about WNBA negotiations, you know something has gone seriously wrong. We're 48 hours away from a potential lockout, and the gap between what players are demanding and what the league says it can afford isn't just wide, it's a canyon that might be impossible to cross.
At baggage, 30 years of baggage. Now, what she probably could fix is 5 years, maybe 10, the more her fandom grow and bring new viewers. But guess what they doing? They're talking about the new fans. They're killing the interest. Y'all talking about fans, tweeting, us making videos. Y'all doing everything y'all can to sabotage y'all current little hype that y'all got, to the point now where the hype is so bad, hell, it's hard to get 5,000 views on a video right now. I just gotta keep it real because ain't nobody else gonna see it. Everybody is struggling. If your name ain't Rachel.
Here's the specific breakdown. The WNBA Players Association submitted a proposal 2 weeks ago requesting 30% of gross revenue and a salary cap of $10.5 million. To put that in perspective, the current salary cap is $1.5 million. They're asking for a 7-fold increase. The league's response: according to Front Office Sports, this proposal would result in $700 million in losses over the duration of the CBA, not reduced profits, actual losses. And here's what makes this particularly complicated. The WNBA just came off a season where they lost $40 million, even with the Caitlin Clark effect driving record viewership.
It will cost it'll be an atrocious loss. 30% is crazy, bro. How do you give 30% of something you ain't got? They ain't got 30 to give. Damn, dog. Like, that's what's crazy to me, man. Like, they want 30% of the money, but the money, where you gonna get the 30 from, y'all? Please let me know. It said a little more than 48 hours ahead of January 9th deadline, the WNBA and WBPA remain at odds over a new collective bargaining agreement.
Now let's talk about what the league actually offered, because this isn't a situation where owners are being cheap. The WNBA's counter-proposal in early December offered players 70% of net revenue, which sources say equals approximately 15% of gross league revenue. The salary cap would jump from $1.5 million to $5 million. Maximum salaries would exceed $1.3 million. Average salaries would hit $500,000 over the contract duration. That's substantial money for a league that's never turned a profit in 28 years of existence.
Heard a lot of chatter about what we're asking for. It's not sustainable for the business. Now, Fisa Collier said during the Unrivaled broadcast Monday, being on this side with Unrivaled, I know what it takes to run a sustainable business. Yeah, but you ain't had this business for 30 damn years. If they can't find a model that makes it happen, they need to put people in place who can. We're proving that it's possible. There is a way. We're thriving in it. Y'all thriving in it. Your league only been around for 2 years. How could you base your 2-year data off 30-year data? They've been having...
But here's where the disconnect becomes crystal clear. Fisa Collier from Unrivaled made a statement that reveals how players are thinking about this. She said, if the league can't find a sustainable business model, they need to put people in place who can, because Unrivaled is proving it's possible. Now, Unrivaled is a 3-on-3 league that's been around for less than 6 months. They haven't paid for arenas, travel, full rosters, or benefits packages for 30 years. Comparing their 2-month-old business model to a 3-decade operation that's accumulated massive debt is like comparing a startup's first profitable quarter to a legacy company's entire financial history.
The CBA was set to expire on November the 30th. Last month, the WBPA authorized a strike in a vote that included 93% of participation from players. 98% voted to allow the union's executive committee to call a strike when necessary. Now, if both sides can agree to a third extension or work stoppage, whether in the form of a lockout initiated by the owners or strike initiated by the players, would not be automatic. If neither side initiate a work stoppage, negotiation could instead enter a period of status quo. Under this term, so this is what's finna happen possibly, y'all.
The timeline here matters. Both sides agreed to extend negotiations twice. First on November 30th, when the original CBA was set to expire. And again, recently, before that November deadline, the WNBA Players Association held a strike authorization vote. 93% of players participated, and 98% voted to authorize the executive committee to call a strike if necessary. That's not a negotiating tactic. That's players preparing for a work stoppage. And according to the current agreement structure, if negotiations continue under status quo after January 9th, the union can call a strike at any point without additional authorization.
In the terms of the current CBA, the players cannot strike without terminating the extended agreement. But if negotiations are under status quo, the union could call a strike at any point. So it is going to be a strike. It is. If the union could call it, that's probably what's going to happen after the 9th. I'm the first one calling this. That's probably what's going to happen on the 9th, probably late January 9th. No more extensions. It's going to be a strike that will be forced by the union. The union is more than likely, from what I'm reading, it's going to be the ones to inflict this strike onto the WNBA. Now,
here's what's particularly frustrating for league executives. Adam Silver reportedly thought a deal was done a month ago. He's had to step in personally to try to salvage these negotiations, which is unusual for a commissioner who typically tackles labor issues. The fact that he's publicly expressing frustration suggests the league has moved as far as they believe they can move. When you're offering to quintuple the salary cap and players are still saying it's not enough, you're not having a negotiation about fair compensation anymore. You're having a fundamental disagreement about financial reality.
Now it goes on to say the union's proposal was a counter to one of the league made in early December. The league had offered players 70% of net revenue, with sources familiar with the negotiation believe equates to about 15% less than league revenue. The salary cap would increase from 1.5 million to 5 million under the league's latest proposal, and the league proposed revenue sharing will lead to max salaries of more than 1.3 million in average salaries exceeding 500,000 over the duration. So that's where they at, man. That's right.
Let's address the elephant in the room, the Caitlin Clark factor. Yes, her rookie season drove unprecedented viewership. Yes, merchandise sales exploded. Yes, attendance records were shattered. But one successful season doesn't erase 30 years of accumulated losses. The league's financial obligations didn't start in 2024. They've been paying salaries, arena costs, travel expenses, and operational overhead since 1997. While generating minimal revenue, you can't fix 3 decades of red ink with 1 year of black ink, no matter how impressive that year was.
In the comment section right now, let me know your thoughts about this one. Make sure you keep the bells on. Until next time, man.
So what happens after January 9th if no deal is reached? There are 3 possible scenarios, and none of them are good for anyone involved. First scenario, the league initiates a lockout. Owners shut down operations, no games are played, and players receive no paychecks. This would be catastrophic for a league that just built massive momentum. All those new Caitlin Clark fans who tuned in for the first time last season, they disappear. Casual viewers don't wait around for labor disputes to resolve. They move on to other sports, other entertainment. The WNBA would be gambling that they can rebuild that audience again, which took them 28 years to achieve in the first place. Second scenario, the Players Union calls a strike. Same result as a lockout in terms of no games being played. But the optics are different. Players would be walking away from a deal that quintuples their salary cap because they want more. That's a tough position to defend publicly, especially when the league's financial records show consistent losses. The NBA has subsidized the WNBA for nearly 3 decades. At some point, even the most supportive parent company has to ask whether throwing good money after bad makes business sense. Third scenario, negotiations continue under status quo. The current CBA terms remain in place, but the union can call a strike at any moment. This creates maximum uncertainty for everyone. Teams can't plan. Players don't know if they'll have jobs. Sponsors can't commit to marketing campaigns. Television partners can't schedule broadcasts. It's operational paralysis that slowly kills the momentum the league desperately needs to maintain. The fundamental problem is this: players are looking at revenue growth and saying, "We deserve a bigger piece of that pie." League executives are looking at 30 years of losses and saying, "What pie?" We're still trying to bake one that doesn't collapse. Both perspectives have merit, but they're incompatible. You can't split revenue that doesn't exist after you pay the bills. And here's what makes this particularly painful. The league's offer is actually generous by any reasonable standard. Going from $1.5 million to $5 million in salary cap isn't a minor adjustment. That's transformative money for players. Maximum salaries over $1.3 million means star players are making legitimate professional athlete money. Average salaries at $500,000 means even role players are earning solid middle-class incomes. For a league that's never been profitable, that's a massive commitment. But players are comparing themselves to NBA salaries and asking why the gap is so large. The answer is revenue. NBA players receive 50% of basketball-related income, because basketball-related income for the NBA is measured in billions. WNBA revenue is measured in hundreds of millions, and most of that goes to operational costs that the NBA doesn't face on a per-dollar basis. When you're selling out 20,000-seat arenas versus 3,000-seat venues, the economics are completely different. The unrivaled comparison that Fee Collier made is particularly telling because it reveals a misunderstanding of business fundamentals. Unrivaled can pay competitive salaries because they have minimal overhead. 8 teams, 3-on-3 format. Concentrated schedule in one location, no legacy debt. The WNBA has 12 teams, full rosters, nationwide travel, arena leases, and 3 decades of accumulated financial obligation. Acting like those situations are comparable is either naive or deliberately misleading. What's also getting lost in this discussion is the risk the league is taking with their current offer. Committing to $5 million salary caps when you're losing $40 million annually means betting that revenue growth will accelerate dramatically. That's not guaranteed. Caitlin Clark could get injured. Viewership could plateau. Sponsors could pull back. The league is essentially mortgaging its future on the hope that last season's success continues and expands. If it doesn't, those salary commitments become an anchor that could sink the entire operation. Adam Silver's frustration makes perfect sense in this context. He's watching WNBA executives offer players a deal that's financially aggressive, maybe even reckless, and players are rejecting it as insufficient. From his perspective, the league is already stretching beyond what the numbers support. Asking for 30% of gross revenue isn't negotiating. It's demanding something that would require the NBA to subsidize the WNBA even more heavily than they already do. So we're heading toward January 9th, with both sides dug in and no clear path to resolution. The players have the strike authorization, the league has financial reality, and in the middle are millions of new fans who finally started paying attention to women's basketball, only to potentially watch it disappear into a labor dispute that neither side can afford, but neither side seems willing to avoid. The question isn't whether the WNBA players deserve more money. They absolutely do. The question is whether the money exists to give them what they're asking for, without bankrupting the league entirely. And based on 30 years of financial history, the answer appears to be no, which means someone has to compromise, or we're about to watch the WNBA's breakthrough moment turn into its biggest crisis. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are the players justified in holding out for 30% of revenue? Or should they take the league's offer and help build toward profitability first? Because this decision is going to define the next decade of women's professional basketball.